Hi, welcome to Ocean Yumi's channel. So today, well, this video is going to be for PTSD and other mental health things. So I have done a small video of me reading. The reading might not be the greatest, but I'm trying to get the message across to what the mental health is, what's it about. I mean, even if this is a very short video, that's okay because I might come back and I might have to do it on my laptop because I'm on my phone. So, um, there is still mental health stigmas going on. Still, I mean, um, I also wanted to do this because Jaguar Wright spoke about her husband's PTSD, and she looked like, like I said, she looked like she had a lot of mental health going on herself, a lot of unstableness, a lot of stuff going on. So really, um, I feel that there is still a bit of stigma attached to it because people tried to change what was going on with her, when in fact, all she had, all she really had was a mental health disorder going on. So you can also tell how unstable she is by her actions and different stuff. But like I said, if anything, I'll just come back and I'll just continue from this video here. So I'm going to play the little bits that I got as well uh, to help. I mean, because it could be more in-depth research done on mental health. Because at one point people was put into rooms and they had to do electric what do you call it, electric, I always forget words, when I come on there, electronic shocks to people, because apparently people's mind that used to help the mental health patients, but sometimes they would electric shock them so much that like they would die, or they put them in a place of desolate, um they were walking around in their own world. Now, though things have improved now, modern times, there's still times where the mental health patients, particularly, don't get treated, don't get treated for the what's wrong with them. Some people don't even talk about their mental illness; they keep it to themselves, and then it gets worse and worse. Now, bear in mind, there is loads of different types of mental health. I mean, I'm just you choosing PTSD because of Jaguar, right? So I thought I'll pre-record a couple videos to show information, and also I have also might just put a little write up on the wall because it's serious. Now, this is one of the things in the black community that was the biggest stigma of all, being touched in the head, as they'll put it. Um, also drugs also bring on the mental health. Also, certain chemical imbalance brings on mental health as well. So, and also there's ways of telling when a person have got mental health, which is, i.e., their hygiene goes down, the house goes down, all sorts of things. And I'm not just saying this because I got talked about this the other day, because they haven't even covered this subject. So, but a lot of the mental health shows in houses how the persons carry themselves. Um, Sometimes they need caseworkers to come in and do an observation on them, or their family will go and try and get them help, because sometimes it can go as far as the mental health person can end up, you know, offing somebody, and it varies. Now, one of the ones I did find out with in real life was about the catatonia, which is supposed to be the schizophrenia type, which I will go into another time, because the catatonia one, from what I was told, it's similar because they forget, they have blackouts and all sorts going on. So even though there's different types of mental health, people make light of mental health and the mental stability of a person, which is not always so. Yes, I say a person's slow sometimes, but then again, right, it could be down to their mental health. Also, a person might not be as clean as they supposed to be. So they will need extra help to make sure that they get the help that is needed, like in the house, etc. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play it because also with the cults as well, I realized there was a lot of mental unstable people in the cults. Um, the mother and daughter, for instance, the mother, the way she is or whatever, you know, she feels she's doing something good, but she could also have mental health herself. Also, what I'm coming to realize there is a lot of unstableness on the YouTube. So people who have mental health will come on here and let off or do whatever on the YouTube. That's so they can release the mental health or whatever. Right. So mind you, even though mental health it is a big conversation, it sometimes it's not a conversation that people want to have. So I'm gonna play the little bits I've got and then I'm gonna come off. Bear in mind some of the words in some of the sentences I've never seen before, and I have it's a dyslexic, so you have to excuse me if I don't read fluent. Some things I can read fluent, and other things I can't. So um, just bear with me as I read through the texts. I'm gonna play one video first, and then I'm gonna play the text, and then I'm gonna play the other video. So let me just go ahead and do. Okay, this is the rest of the mental health information. So one in every 8 people in the world live with mental health disorder. Mental disorders live significantly the disturbance in the thinking, emotional regulation, or behavior. There are many types of mental disorders. Effective prevention and treatment of, 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 of options exist. Most people do not have access to effective care. Mental disorder is characterized by clinically significant disturbance in the individual's cognitive, emotional regulation, or behavior. It is usually associated with distress and impairment in important areas of functioning. There are many different types of mental disorders. Mental disorders may also be referred to as mental health conditions. The latter is a broader term covering mental disorders, psychosis disabilities, and other mental states associated with the significant distress, impairment in functioning, or risk of self-harm. The fact sheet focuses on mental disorders as described by International Classification of Diseases 11th revision. In 2019, one in every 8 people, or 970 million people around the world, were living with mental disorders, with anxiety, depressive disorders, and the most common in 2020, the number of people living with anxiety and depression disorders rose significantly because of the C-19 pandemic. Internal estimates show a 28% increase relatively for anxiety and major depressive disorders in one year. or two. While effective prevention treatment uh, op- op- opinions exist, most people with mental disorders do not options. Most people with mental disorders do not have access to the care, effective care. Many people also experience stigma, discrimination, and violations of human rights. So one of which anxiety disorder. So in 2019, 301 million people were living with an anxiety disorder, including 58 million children and adolescents. Anxiety disorders are characterized by excessive fear and worry and related behavior. The symptoms are severe enough to result in significant distress or significant impairment in function. There are several different kinds of anxiety disorders, such as generalized anxiety and disorder characterized by excessive worry, panic disorder characterized by panic attacks, social anxiety disorder characterized by exclusive fear and worry in social situations, separation anxiety disorder characteristics by fear for anxiety about separation from those individuals to whom the person has a deep emotional bond, and others. Effective psychological treatment exists depending on age and significantly severity, and medication on may also be considered.
Of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. Almost everyone lives through something traumatic at some point in life. Most people have a lot of distress right after a trauma happens, but begin to feel better over time. For other people, the distress sticks around, and they begin to have symptoms that really affect their lives. For these people, it is almost as if the trauma is still happening, all the time, everywhere, long after it has passed. I know. One of these voices is mine. What do we mean by trauma? When we're talking about PTSD, a trauma is a horrible experience where you might have felt afraid for your life, or you were injured physically or sexually, or were afraid you would be. You can also witness a trauma or hear about it happening to someone you care about. First responders, medical people, and clergy can also experience trauma by hearing others talk about it. For me, it was combat. I saw some really horrible things, and I often thought I might be killed. PTSD develops in some people and not in others. Everyone experiences horrible things differently, and everyone reacts differently, sometimes for years or decades after the event. If you experience post-traumatic stress, it does not mean you're weak or that you can't handle hard things. It may make you feel weak or unsafe, but a lot of strong, brave people are affected by PTSD. And it is treatable. Your provider might think about a diagnosis of PTSD if you've lived through something awful, and if you have some specific symptoms for more than 1 month. Intrusion or re-experiencing symptoms. This is the memory of the trauma coming back. It can show up as unwanted memories, nightmares, flashbacks, or feeling horrible after being reminded of it. For me, I kept seeing this one image of a Marine who had just died, and that memory haunted me. Avoidance symptoms. People go out of their way to avoid anything that reminds them of what happened. Some people avoid things like thinking about the trauma. Others avoid people or places or anything else that makes them remember. I couldn't deal with crowded restaurants or movie theaters. I felt unsafe there, so I stayed away, and it affected my family life a lot. Negative changes in thoughts or feelings. This can seem like depression or thinking I'm not safe. I felt sad and didn't feel interested in the activities I used to love. I isolated myself. Other people feel self-blame or might not remember the event well. Some people feel numb or disconnected. Changes in reactivity or arousal. This means your body reacts to things much more than it used to. You feel irritable. You might take risks or act self-destructive. A lot of times you have trouble concentrating and you're always on guard. I was jumpy and loud noises really startled me for a while. I also couldn't sleep for months after coming home and had to take medication. PTSD makes people feel horrible, but I found a way to ask for help. I learned there are several treatments proven to work for combat veterans like me, as well as for survivors of all other types of trauma. These therapies have names like CPT, PE, and EMDR, and they help people get through the trauma by learning to change how they think and feel about it. I was able to get back to living. PTSD is challenging, but there is hope. Talk to your doctor and get some help because treatment works. People can learn to live again. I know.
Yeah, so that was PTSD. So I'm gonna show uh another video.
Severe mood swings that cause problems in relationships. Intense worries or fears that get in the way of daily activities. Sudden overwhelming fear. Or seriously trying to harm or kill oneself, or making plans to do so. Not eating, throwing up, or using laxatives to lose weight. Significant weight loss or weight gain. Severe, out-of-control risk-taking behavior that can cause harm to self or others. Repeated use of drugs or alcohol. Drastic changes in behavior, personality, or sleeping habits. Or extreme difficulty concentrating or staying still. If you see these signs in yourself or a friend, tell a trusted adult. The first step to getting help is to say it out loud.
I think that one's aimed at teenagers with mental health problems because they can isolate themselves and stuff like that. So I just thought I'll come and show these couple videos, and please put on your notifications for other lives because I do actually cover subjects. So with that said, I'm going to go, and I might do a part two on this. I'll see. Because it is a lot. It's a lot of information, and you can't just simply do one video on it and that's it. You actually need to do a whole lot of other videos on it because some people do not recognize when their relatives have mental health disorders. The veterans, I think, is the biggest ones for me. I think because especially if they've been to war and come back, they see a lot of stuff. They go through combat and all that. So that's why I decided to look at the PTSD one. And like I said, because of Jaguar Wright's husband and what was said about, he had triggers which made him pull the gun out on her, which doesn't make it right. But at the same time, it's most dangerous because it could have ended in another way. So people that go through mental health stability, anxiety being one of them, because when you got anxiety, right, and you can have very high anxiety as well. There's cases where I mean, I can use myself as an example. During the pandemic, because we was closed in for so long, I was unable to go places and I had to do breathing techniques so I could come out of the house or so I can deal with normal stuff till it wasn't as bad. So I was able to uh be in a space and breathe or do do breathing. I mean, like, you'd have to show people that you're doing breathing exercises, but that was one way to even do it, or count to 10 in your head when you're around certain things, because having that anxiety is not an easy one. The next one of the all most of the disorders is, I think, is I forgot the next one, the schizophrenia, the bipolar being the most dangerous one, because a person can flip from being calm to being manic. And I think the schizophrenia one is similar. So, you know, I mean, even when they give you certain medical stuff, sometimes though it dims it down, because it all depends on how strong the depression tablet is or whatever, right? Sometimes the body gets like dependent on that tablet. So the person is unable to do normal stuff. They cannot do normal jobs. They cannot do certain stuff. Let me see your transcript. They can't do normal stuff. They can't function properly. Also, it's a matter case of when dealing with certain mental disorders. Yes, you have to go see a medical person, because, I mean, as much as I don't like, I mean, alternative medicine is good because you can have alternative, I suppose, to some of the mental disorders, not all of them, because some might need more severe medicating. Like, you know, um, some of the medication literally dumb down a person so much, they put on so much weight, they they're not the same person. Another thing is in the prison system, when a person goes to the prison system and they have mental health, they also test them, they deal with them like test they test people kind of thing. Like I said, like, even to this day they still do electronic shocking to most mental health patients, but not everybody knows what goes on inside of the mental health spaces. So when you think your relative, whoever, is in a safe environment, sometimes they can be shocking them. They have them, you know, strapped to the bed. There's all sorts in it. There's all sorts. And so it's just a matter of knowing and informing yourself on these things, because you never know. Like I said, catatonia, which is what I found out. Catatonia, which is what I found out, that it is the the friend to schizophrenia. But unless you're in a certain situation, then you will ideally find out about these medical terms or whatever. Not only that, when people is in the mental health system, even you probably don't even recognize your own family. So you have to try and get them lesser strong medication so they can function, so their minds can still be as normal as as when they are out on the outside of residence, whatever. So, I just thought I'd say this little bit really, because um the PTSD thing with Jaguar, I think, was quite deep, and I don't know whether other people's covered the mental health thing, but I feel on my channel you have to cover certain stuff so that people can know, like, what's going on, because even a teenager can have mental disorder and you don't even know. They can be caught up in the devices or certain stuff which can trigger a lot of, you know, stuff in the head, in the mind. They also can also stay by themselves, because even the last video is more aimed at teenagers, I will say, teenagers who have mental health, because there is a lot of teenagers that have mental health, but no one's talking about it. So, like I said, this is only going to be a short video. I'm not going to be on here long. Um, I might come back up and do more on the mental health if the audience would like. And there's various subjects that need to be covered because even in the black community, there is stigmas and stuff going on. When I say taboos, I call them taboos. That doesn't want people don't want to talk about a lot of stuff, but you have to talk about it. And being that we have the platforms we have, it needs to be spoken about because even on the platforms here, you see mental health disorders big time, big time. People saying that they're off of drug uses and stuff like that. So it needs to be spoken about properly, looked at properly with an adult mind to an extent. People don't like to talk about certain stuff, which I've already spoken about child abuse a few times. And I think this is the next subject I'm going to be looking at more and be bringing it on every now and again to get people to remind people of mental health stigmas in the community because there is still a stigma attached to it, whether people care to believe it or not. It's all and good having laughs and giggles at somebody at their expense who's probably going through a psychosis at the time. But because we're not all experts, we can't all recognize what's going on with that person. So, yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say, really. So, with that said, I'm going to come off. So, thank you, Jess J. And let me see your transcript. And I'll see you in the next live. Okay, so take care, look after yourself and your families. Just, try. I mean, like, you don't have to be the most perfect kiss, whatever, but at least you can try and make sure that they're okay to some extent. Like everybody, we all have flaws, we all do certain stuff, and we have the platforms that we can drive certain subjects. Now, I always use my channel to talk about stuff. You can check lower down, you see I talk about a variety of subjects. Okay, so please go look at the subjects, check them out. And with that said, I'll see you later. Bye.